at UNrest Summit in Qatar. Qatar to take more than 700 soldiers from Bangladesh within the next 2 months, informs Chief Advisor's Press Secretary Shafiqul Alam. Tribunal instructs to frame formal charges on May 25th against 8 accused in the killing of 6, including student Anas at Chankarpul. Enforced disappearance more heinous crime than murder. Prosecution of enforced disappearance and human rights violation is topmost priority of this government, says law advisor. Information and Broadcasting Advisor urges district information officers to actively counter rumors and disinformation locally. BNP meets with National Consensus Commission for the third time. Funeral of Pope Francis will take place on Saturday. World leaders, including US President Donald Trump and Chief Advisor Professor Muhammad Yunus, to attend. And in Sylhet Test, Bangladesh leading by 112 runs against Zimbabwe at the end of day 3. Assalamu alaikum. I'm Tasnamat Tasneem. You're welcome to News at 10. You've just heard the headlines. Now moving on to the details. Claiming that social business can bring millions of people out of poverty, Chief Advisor Professor Muhammad Yunus said poverty is created due to wrong economic system. He made the remarks while delivering his keynote speech on exploring the role of social business, financial inclusion and microfinance in fostering sustainable development and economic opportunities for marginalized communities at UNrest Summit organized by Qatar Foundation in Doha, Qatar today. The Chief Advisor said, a social business is a business that was designed to solve social problems while it is financially self-sustaining, but it is not designed to maximize personal gain. Rather, he said it exists to maximize social good. The Chief Advisor placed 6 proposals at UNrest Summit, saying the path to a sustainable and equitable future lies in collective action. He said access to finance is critical for sustainable development, good governance and empowerment of women and youth. Chief Advisor Professor Yunus urged the global leaders not to forget Palestine and Rohingya crisis, saying the Palestinians are not expendable.
I love social business. Simply those words, nothing else. The whole course will think, what is the social business? Can I do social business? What kind of social business I can do? Just one word. I said, that's about the whole. So you can enumerate many things. The problem inside of sports. Sports is a very, very attractive thing for the world. But nobody pays attention to the people who failed in sports. You worked very hard all your life, but never made beyond your town, never made beyond your country. So most of the people remain at your village level, at your township level, at your little city level. Millions and millions of people work very hard.
Earlier, Chief Advisor Professor Muhammad Yunus received a warm welcome from the Qatari ministers and dignitaries as he attended the opening ceremony of the UNrest Summit 2025. 4 Bangladeshi athletes who are accompanying Professor Yunus also attended the welcome reception with Qatar Foundation leadership. Chief Advisor Professor Yunus introduced 4 female athletes from Bangladesh with global participants at the inaugural session of the UNrest Summit. Chief Advisor's Press Secretary Shofiqul Alam has said Qatar would take 725 soldiers from Bangladesh as Bangladesh is exploring diverse areas for further strengthening the relations with the gas-rich Gulf Kingdom. He said this while briefing reporters on the sidelines of the UNrest Summit 2025. Press Secretary said Bangladesh can send the soldiers by the next 2 months. He said there will be efforts to increase the numbers in the future.
20 মিনিটের একটা বক্তব্য দিয়েছেন। ওনার বক্তব্যের মূল বিষয়বস্তু ছিল যে কিভাবে মাইক্রো ক্রেডিট এবং সোশ্যাল বিজনেস কিভাবে মানুষের জীবনকে ট্রান্সফর্ম করে, সেটা বাংলাদেশেই হোক আমেরিকাই হোক, এই পুরো বিষয়টা উনি তুলে ধরেছেন এবং এটা কিভাবে মানুষকে হোপ যোগায় এই জিনিসটা, উনি এটাকে আরো যাতে মানুষ যাতে এটা দোরগোড়ায় যাতে পৌঁছে যায়, পৃথিবীতে যাতে সোশ্যাল বিজনেস আরো আমরা শুরু করতে পারি। সোশ্যাল বিজনেসের মূল যে কনসেপ্ট যে স্পেসিফিক একটা ইস্যু ধরে একটা প্রবলেমকে সলভ করার জন্য একটা সোশ্যাল বিজনেস করে, এগুলো নিয়ে উনি 20 মিনিটের একটা আমি বলি যে চমৎকার একটা ভাষণ দিয়েছেন। আর একটা সুখবর আপনাদেরকে দেই, কাতার আমাদেরকে জানিয়েছে তারা বাংলাদেশের থেকে 725 জন সোলজার নিবে এবং আমরা চাচ্ছি যে এই নাম্বারটা যাতে আরো বেড়ে 1600 বা আরো বেশি করা যায়। এটা 2 মাসের মধ্যে আমরা পাঠাতে পারবো, আমরা আশা করছি।
Qatar Minister of State for Energy Affairs Saad bin Sherida Al-Kabi called on Chief Advisor Professor Mohammad Yunus on the sidelines of UNrest Summit in Doha, Qatar today. During the meeting, various issues were discussed, including importing more LNG from Qatar. Bangladesh's Power, Energy and Mineral Resources Advisor Fawzul Kabir Khan, Foreign Affairs Advisor Mohammad Tauhid Hussain, National Security Advisor Dr. Khalilur Rahman, BIDA Executive Chairman Chaudhry Ashik bin Mahmood Harun, and SDG Affairs Coordinator Senior Secretary Lamia Morshid were present at the meeting. Chief Advisor Professor Mohammad Yunus today held a meeting with Sheikh Moza bint Nasser, mother of the Amir of the Qatar and chairperson of Qatar Foundation, on the sidelines of UNrest Summit in Doha, Qatar. He also joined a meeting with Sheikh Thani bin Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani, chairperson of Qatar Fund for Development, on the sidelines of the summit. During the meeting, they discussed matters of mutual interest. Besides, the Chief Advisor held a meeting with Nawaf Abdullah Al-Hamadi, Assistant CEO for International Operations Sector of Qatar Charity, on the sidelines. Meanwhile, Bangladeshi athletes visiting Qatar posed for photographs with Chief Advisor Professor Mohammad Yunus and Sheikh Hind bint Hamad Al Thani, sister of Qatar Emir and the host of UNrest Summit. The prosecution of the International Crimes Tribunal will file a formal charge sheet on 25th of May in Chankarpur massacre case where 6 innocent were gunned down during the July-August mass uprising. A bench led by International Crimes Tribunal Chairman Justice Muhammad Ghulam Murtuza Mozumdar delivered the verdict today. Later, Chief Prosecutor Muhammad Tajul Islam said they pleaded for 4 weeks' time. It is hoped that the formal charges can be submitted before the scheduled time. Earlier in the morning, the accused in the case, former Police Inspector Arshad, Constable Shujon, Constable Imaz Hussain Imon, and Constable Nasrul Islam were produced before the tribunal. The Appellate Division has scheduled May 6th for the hearing of the appeal filed by Jamaat leader ATM Azharul Islam against his death sentence in a crime against humanity case. On that day, the full bench of the Appellate Division will hear the matter, and according to the order, Azharul Islam's appeal will be listed at the top of the court's cause list. The order was passed today by a 4-member Appellate Division bench led by Chief Justice Dr. Said Rifat Ahmed. Following the order, lawyer Shishir Moni briefed the reporters, stating that the court gave the directive considering the significance of the appeal. The High Court has granted an additional 6 months for the investigation into the murder case of journalist couple Shagor Sharwar and Mehirun Rooney. The order was issued today by the High Court bench of Justice Fatima Najib and Justice Shikdar Mojumdar Raji following a time extension plea from the state. Additional Attorney General Arshadur Rauf represented the state during the hearing, while Advocate Shishir Monir appeared on behalf of the writ petitioner. Law advisor Dr. Asif Nozrul stated that enforced disappearance is a more heinous crime than murder. The prosecution of enforced disappearances and human rights violation is the highest priority of this government, he added. The advisor made these remarks at a discussion meeting on the Enforced Disappearance Prevention and Remedy Ordinance 2025 held at Judicial Administration Institute Auditorium in the capital today. Presided over by head of the committee investigating enforced disappearances, Justice Moinul Islam Chaudhry, the discussion was participated among others by Attorney General Muhammad Asaduzzaman, Chief Prosecutor of the International Crimes Tribunal Tajul Islam, Justice Muhammad Farid Ahmed Shibli, and Coordinator of Mayer Dak Sanjida Islam, researcher, lawyers and human rights activists. The speakers shared their opinions on the proposed draft ordinance concerning enforced disappearances. The law advisor stated that the government would finalize the Enforced Disappearance Prevention and Remedy Ordinance based on the opinions of all stakeholders. Information and Broadcasting Advisor Mohammad Mahfuz Alam has urged officials and employees of district information offices to actively counter rumors and disinformation at the local level. The information advisor said this while addressing a focus group discussion organized by the Mass Communication Department at the meeting room of the ministry today. The advisor said officials and employees of district information offices should work to combat rumors and misinformations locally, along with playing an effective role in promoting important local public issues. Mentioning that information officers have an important role in ensuring free flow of information, he urged the authorities concerned to provide befitting training to the local information officers. Information and Broadcasting Ministry Secretary Mahbuba Farzana, Bangladesh Shangbad Shongstha Managing Director and Chief Editor Mahbub Morshed, Director General of Mass Communication Department Faizul Haq, Principal Information Officer Muhammad Nizamul Kobir, Director General of Department of Films and Publications Khaleda Begum, and Bangladesh Journalist Welfare Trust Managing Director Muhammad Abdullah, among others, were present. The third round of discussions between the National Consensus Commission and the BNP was held today at the National Parliament building. A four-member delegation led by BNP Standing Committee member Salahuddin Ahmed attended the meeting. After the meeting, Salahuddin Ahmed said that the BNP wants to reach a consensus based on opinion to ensure that the independence of the judiciary, the constitution and the law are not violated. The BNP has also recommended that local government elections should not be held using party symbols and that the parliamentary term should be limited to 5 years. It has also recommended that no one should be allowed to serve as Prime Minister for more than 2 consecutive terms. However, one may serve again after a break. Earlier, the first and second rounds of the meeting were held on 17th and 20th April, respectively. Detailed discussions on proposals from the Constitutional Reform Commission, the electoral system, the police, the judiciary, the Anti-Corruption Commission and the Public Administration Reform Commission were discussed in the meetings. Bangladeshi Biplobi Workers' Party has given 31 proposals to the Election Commission, including restoration of people's confidence in the election system and the trial of those responsible for rigged election in the past. Party's General Secretary Saiful Haq placed the proposals in a meeting with the CEC AMM Nasiruddin at Agarga Election Commission building today. After the meeting, he briefed the newsmen that saying, though the Election Reform Commission did not mention anything about black money or undeclared expenditure, the Election Commission must take measures in this regard. BNP Acting Chairman Tariq Rahman said that the party has already gave proposal to increase women's seat in the parliament from 50 to 100. The BNP leader came up with the remarks while virtually joining a training workshop titled Outline of 31 Points for Preparing the State Structure and People's Involvement held in Gaibandha, Lalmonirhat and Kurigram districts of Rangpur division. Everyone must attain specific skill for achieving any task, Tariq Rahman pointed out. Moving on to some international news. Pope Francis's funeral will be held on Saturday in St. Peter's Square, Roman Catholic cardinals decided on Tuesday, setting the stage for a solemn ceremony that will draw leaders from around the world. Francis died on Monday after suffering a stroke and cardiac arrest, the Vatican said, ending an often turbulent reign in which he repeatedly clashed with traditionalists and championed the poor and marginalized. The appointee spent 5 weeks in hospital earlier this year, suffering from double pneumonia, but he returned to the Vatican almost a month ago and had seemed to be recovering, appearing in St. Peter's Square on Easter Sunday. The Vatican on Tuesday released photographs of Francis dressed in his vestments and laid in a wooden coffin in the chapel of the Santa Marta residence, where he lived during his 12-year papacy. Swiss guards stand on either side of the casket. His body will be taken into the adjacent St. Peter's Basilica on Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. local time, in a procession led by cardinals, allowing the faithful to pay their last respects to the first Latin American Pope. His funeral service will be held in St. Peter's Square in the shadow of the Basilica on Saturday at 10 a.m. local time. U.S. President Donald Trump, who clashed repeatedly with the Pope about immigration, said he and his wife would fly to Rome for the service. Chief Advisor Professor Muhammad Yunus will also fly to Vatican to attend the funeral of the Pope. Among others, heads of state set to attend were Argentine President Javier Milei, Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Palestinians who live in Gaza are spending life with humanitarian crisis as Israel stopped all the ways to enter medicine, food, and water in the Strip. Meanwhile, Israeli airstrikes since dawn on Tuesday killed at least 25 people across the Hamas-run territory. Israel resumed an intense air and ground offensive on Gaza on March 18th, ending a 2-month ceasefire that had largely halted the fighting in the besieged Palestinian territory. The total number of Palestinians killed in Israeli airstrikes since dawn today has risen to 25, Mohammad Mughair, a senior official with the Civil Defense Agency, said. 9 people were killed and several others wounded when an airstrike hit a house in the center of the southern city of Khan Yunus, he said. 6 more remained trapped under the rubble, he asked. Another 9 were killed in separate strikes on Jabalia refugee camp in northern Gaza, Mughair said, including 5 when a tent housing displaced people was hit. 5 others were killed in a strike on a home belonging to the Bakr family in the al-Shati refugee camp of Gaza City, he said, while 2 died in a similar attack in the southern city of Rafah. Russian President Vladimir Putin, under pressure from Washington to show willingness to make peace in Ukraine, proposed on Monday bilateral talks with Kyiv for the first time in years and said he was open to more ceasefires after a 1-day Easter truce. Separately, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky confirmed Kyiv was sending delegation to London to meet with the United States and other Western countries on Wednesday. The London talks are a follow-up to a meeting in Paris last week in which the US and European states discussed ways to end the more than 3-year-old war. Putin, speaking to a Russian TV, said fighting had resumed after his surprise 30-hour Easter ceasefire, which he announced unilaterally on Saturday. Both countries accused the other of violating Putin's truce, which Kyiv had largely dismissed from the outset as a stunt. Washington said it would welcome an extension of the truce. Zelensky, who has called for it to be extended to a 30-day ceasefire on civilian targets, said continued Russian attacks during Sunday's ceasefire showed Moscow was intent on prolonging the war. In his comments, Putin said Moscow was open to any peace initiatives and expected the same from Kyiv. Zelensky made no reference to Putin's remarks on bilateral talks in his comments on X, announcing the Ukrainian delegation for the London talks. Earlier on Monday, Zelensky said that his forces were instructed to continue to mirror the Russian army's actions. US Vice President J.D. Vance, who is on a 4-day trip to India, met with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi for talks over trade and said that they made progress in reaching a trade deal between the two countries. The meeting between Vance and Modi comes at a crucial time when India is trying to seal an early trade deal before the expiry of a 90-day pause on tariffs announced by Donald Trump's administration, Deutsche Welle reports. Vance is visiting India on a mostly personal trip to India with his wife Usha and children. Vance's visit is also being viewed as an opportunity for India to host Trump later this year for the summit of leaders of the Quad grouping that includes India, Australia, Japan and the US. What do we know about the meeting between Vance and Modi? Modi's office said that there had been significant progress in the negotiations with the two countries, negotiating the first tranche of a trade deal. Vance's office also reported significant progress in the talks and said the two leaders outlined a plan to take economic discussions forward. The talks present an opportunity to negotiate a new and modern trade agreement focused on promoting job creation and citizen well-being in both countries, the statement from Vance's office added. Bangladesh authorities signed an agreement with two Japanese firms over the Matarbari port, marking the launch of the construction of the country's only deep sea port in Bay of Bengal. Chattogram Port Authority (CPA) signed the deal with Penta Ocean Construction Company Limited and Tua Corporation at a ceremony in the capital today. Japan International Cooperation Agency (JICA) will provide technical cooperation and financial assistance for the project. Shipping Ministry Advisor Brigadier General retired Dr. M. Shakwat Hussain was present. Chief of Naval Staff Admiral M. Nazmul Hassan, Shipping Ministry Senior Secretary Muhammad Yusuf, CPA Chairman Rear Admiral S. M. Moniruzzaman witnessed the signing of Bangladesh on the mission of Japanese Embassy in Dhaka Naoki Takahashi and Chief Representatives of JICA's Bangladesh Office Tamahide Ichiguchi were present. Moving on to news on weather. Met Office in its weather forecast till 6 p.m. tomorrow said rain or thunder showers with lightning flashes and temporary gusty wind is likely to occur at a few places over Mymensingh and Sylhet divisions and at one or two places over Rangpur, Rajshahi, Dhaka and Chattogram divisions. Besides, weather may remain mainly dry with temporary partly cloudy sky elsewhere over the country. Night and day temperature may rise slightly over the country. Country's highest temperature was recorded today at Rajshahi and Joshore at 37.2 degrees Celsius and capital Dhaka's highest temperature was 35 degrees Celsius. Moving on to some news on sports. Bangladesh fought back against Zimbabwe on a rain-truncated day 3 of Sylhet's test and leading by 112 runs at stumps of the day. Bangladesh scored 194 runs for 4 in their second innings at the end of the day. Nazmul Hossain Shanto hit 60 not out and Zakir Ali is 21 not out before the bad light forced an early stumps day Tuesday's play. After the entire first session was washed out due to a wet outfield today, Bangladesh resumed on 57 for 1 and appeared to be in control thanks to Captain Shanto and Mominul Haq. Mominul Haq scored 47 runs for Bangladesh. Earlier, Bangladesh was dismissed for 191 runs in its first innings and trailed by 82 runs after Zimbabwe replied with 273 all out. The final of the Federation Cup football between defending champions Bosundhara Kings and Dhaka Abohani was abandoned due to Northwester at Rafikuddin Bhuiya Stadium in Mymensingh today. The scoreline was 1-1 at the end of the scheduled 90 minutes and the first 15 minutes of added time. However, before the start of the second half of added time, the referee declared the match abandoned. Bosundhara Kings took the lead in the 5th minute, where Argentine forward Juan Lacando heading a Saudian free kick in the far post. Abohani equalized in the 15th minute as winger Muhammad Ibrahim placed an Emeka Ogba cutback from the left. Just 2 minutes into the second half, the Northwester hit. Although the game resumed after 1 hour, the field conditions were quite unplayable. Bangladesh defeated Thailand by 2-1 goals in the ongoing AHF Cup hockey tournament in Jakarta today. With this, the defending champion Bangladesh have got the hat-trick victory in the tournament. At JB Hockey Field in Indonesia, Ashraful Islam gave Bangladesh the lead in the 23rd minute. 6 minutes later, Kraiwich Tawichat scored the equalizer for Thailand. Arshad Hussain scored the winning goal for Bangladesh in the 34th minute. Bangladesh women's kabaddi team defeated host Nepal by 26-23 points in the third match of the 5-match series today. However, the visitors are still trailing by 2-1 in the series. In the first half of the match held in Lalitpur, Nepal, Bangladesh girls trailed by 50-10 points. The fourth match of the series will be held on April 24th and fifth match will be held on April 25th. Now to end the bulletin, headlines once again. Lay emphasis on microcredit and social business for sustainable economic development, says Chief Advisor Professor Mohammad Yunus at al-aqsa Summit in Qatar. Qatar to take more than 700 soldiers from Bangladesh within the next 2 months, informs Chief Advisor's Press Secretary Shafiqul Alam. Tribunal instructs to frame formal charges on May 25th against 8 accused in the killing of 6, including student Anas at Chankarpur. Enforced disappearance, more heinous crime than murder. Prosecution of enforced disappearance and human rights violation is topmost priority of this government, says law advisor. Information and Broadcasting Advisor urges district information officers to actively counter rumors and disinformation locally. BNP meets with National Consensus Commission for the third time. Funeral of Pope Francis will take place on Saturday. World leaders, including US President Donald Trump and Chief Advisor Professor Mohammad Yunus, to attend. And in select test, Bangladesh leading by 112 runs against Zimbabwe at the end of day 3. That was all from the